Welcome to 2022, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Season 7 of caterhamracer.com. Caterham Racing in a virtual world. It's a new year, and therefore a new esports series to get ourselves underway before the main series gets underway at the beginning of April. There's plenty of action still to go. This is our 2022 winter warmer to shake off some of the rust and to get everything well oiled and back in action again before we go racing for real here in the UK with Caterham Motorsport. Scott Woodwis and Chris Hutchison back once again on comms for this one. Chris, first of all, it's a slightly belated one, of course, but Happy New Year, of course, and welcome back to more virtual Caterham racing. Of course, it's incredible now that in practically 2 years, in less than 2 years, we've had 6 seasons worth of racing. This is now season 7, and things just keep on growing and getting better from there, and so hopefully season 7 will provide just as much excitement as pretty much all 6 have altogether.
Yeah, it's good to be back, and hello everyone and welcome to our streams. If you're joining us tonight, welcome along. If it's your first time, then you're in for a treat. We're not constrained by having been limited by budget and by the annual cycles, so we can do as many seasons as we want and as the drivers want, and they're still keen as mustard to get out there. Here we are at Silverstone International today, but they've been busy practicing away all the way on the build up to this, and we're, like you say, brushing off all those cobwebs, getting ready for a brand new season, and who knows what this is going to bring, but you'll see some familiar names on our A grid tonight, and I'm sure they're all looking forward to trying to gain one of the qualification spots.
Any budget constraints, I think, will be for any of these guys out there is how much they want to spend on a new set of pedals or a wheel, because even then, it doesn't particularly too much matter what your equipment is, as long as you can get out on track and you can race successfully. Now, a couple of things we should touch on. Well, first of all, if there is a bit of skipping or sort of my particular voice, any of our voices sounds weird, one or two sort of little technical quips that we're going to be sort of ironing out as the season goes on, so hopefully by next week this should all be sorted, good to go. But one of the things we should mention is that this is not exactly the same car what we've had all through the season, because thankfully over the winter, we have to give some credit to not just Ben Obro, who was one of the main guy who's been putting the original Caterham mods together that we began using all the way back from season 1, but also to the 2 very handy test drivers, which is Andrew Parker and Steve Arnell, both of which have been working incredibly hard, because for the first time this season, Chris, we have a brand new car. We've got the Caterham 310R is now available. Of course, it's the ultimate evolution of what Starter has the Caddy car. And for the first time, we have it in virtual form. And I have to say, for the initial look at it, it's a pretty damn fine new car as well.
Yeah, the detail. If we can, we'll show you some of the details on the car a bit later in the pit lane. But it's a fantastic piece of kit. I'm sure Andrew Parker will gladly take the credit, but it's actually Andy Howard. He can't join us tonight, unfortunately. But Andy Howard's been busy at work getting all the underlying technicals sorted and giving us a car, working with Steve Arnell, who's been doing some test driving and getting all the setup sorted. And yeah, what we've ended up with is a fantastic 310R model. It's actually quite a lot looser at the rear end than the other cars that we drive on the service here at the moment, so you might well see some drifting going on as people sort of struggle to control the rear of the car, but the times and the way the car handles and operates is pretty good. You know, it's great, and it's certainly great for our online events here to see some new hardware on track.
I knew it was going to get less than 5 minutes in. I really confused Andrew with Andy, so I do apologise, Andy, on that one for confusing him with Andrew Parker. Speaking of which, Andrew Parker, of course, at the moment is top of the time so far in qualifying, but we'll get to that shortly as we get some more housekeeping out of the way. We should also mention that for the format for this season, it is once again one of our typical and exciting knockout formats in some cases, or qualifying style formats. It's a little bit similar to where you see events like, for example, the Festival Walter Hayes Trophy, where we have a series of qualification races for the first 4 weeks of our 6-week season. Then there's the last chance saloon for the final few spots, and then a grand final, which will take place at one of 2 circuits. But we're going to allow, whether we'll regret it or not, we'll allow the drivers to make their vote as to which circuit they want to go to. But we start here tonight at Silverstone International. We then move across next week and over the next 6 weeks, mainly across February, which is Cabell Park on the 1st of February, Knock Hill on the traditional clockwise proper direction, which is going to be on the 8th of February. And then it's Snetterton on the 15th of Feb, Croft for a last chance saloon on the 22nd, on the 1st of March, just merely some 18 days before the real BRSEC season gets underway. That'll be at either Alton Park or Anglesey Coastal, whatever the drivers choose to decide. So a good mix of circuits there, some great circuits where this will certainly put the new car to the test, certainly put all the drivers to the test, and I'm sure Chris will give us absolutely even more brilliant racing than we already saw in the similar sort of format we had last year.
Yeah, and for the drivers out there, so we have a whole mix of different drivers on circuit at the moment. We have some real-life Caterham racers. We've got quite a lot of those on the A grid here with us tonight. But we also have, as we see Andrew Parker there, sending it sideways, just proving how tricky it is to control the rear of these cars. But we have some absolute Caterham stalwarts out there on track, but we also have sim racers that have joined us and come along for the ride. And we're just viewing race grid A tonight. And actually, we've got 2 whole grids of cars racing. We've got 20 cars on our grid B, which is running in parallel. So basically, we run a pre-qualification the day before these events, and everyone sorts themselves out into the A grid and B grid based on their lap times through the day. And yeah, this is the end result is we get the fastest 18 drivers to talk through and watch them race.
I think like caterhamracer.com is that whether you're a real racer or a sim racer, it is always some incredible opportunities for these guys to go racing in a very exciting car indeed. A new Pulse. It's a Hassler at the top of the times, now 1 minute 16.073. Andrew Parker second, and Ryan Hooker, who I think has been in the circuit before. I was about to say third, but it now calls Christian Zeruta, the man who I believe, if my memory serves me right, which it should do because I was commentating last time. Christian Zeruta was the man that came home with the series win. Gets a 1:15.995. I think he's the first man in the session to go underneath 1 minute 16. But looking at how competitive it is, just purely on this A grid, literally the top 17 cars of the 18 that are on this grid, it's covered by just over a second here. That just shows just how close it is. It's typically close in real life, of course, but in the sim, when you've got just about a little more evenly matched with everyone in exactly the same equipment, the cars are roughly exactly the same setup parameters. It really comes down to pure ability and, to a small degree, what kind of kit you've got and the settings that you have that can make a difference. But to have it that close in this brand new car just shows how good it is, but also how well adapted everyone is to this car, as more changes at the top of the times as well. Rossetti goes fast as 1:15.905, but already showing Chris, as I said, just how competitive, just how close this car is making this field already, even closer, arguably in some cases, than the other 2 cars did.
It really is close, and yeah, I guess they're all coming in a little bit quieter to this one, as far as they haven't had as long to practice, although some of them have put many laps in around the Silverstone International track. But it's good to see Will Rossetti back up there. He's often quick, isn't he, in our qualification settings, and at the moment he is setting that pace. 15.9 is an absolutely brilliant time. But yet Zeruta only 900ths behind that, and yeah, everything is split by under a tenth basically, so the times are absolutely rapid and very bunched. So yeah, it looks good for the race. So I don't know what it's going to. I'm going to close my eyes for the first few corners though, I think.
I don't have that luxury, unfortunately, because I have to tell people what's going on. But so it's going to be quite intriguing to see. We should mention on the grid as well, but we do in fact have amongst our grid tonight a real world catering champion and a defending catering champion, of course, for this season should he choose to race again. And I believe he is going to carry on the show, I think. And that is Blair McConaughey, because he was last year's catering 270R champion. So belated congratulations to Blair for taking the title. And ironically, the man who denied him the titles in the previous 2 steps that he raced, he's also on the grid tonight, and that is his old nemesis Tom Willis, who's also in there too. And to show that how slightly more enhanced Blair's paces, shall we say, he is actually ahead of him in the qualifying times at the moment, in a car that he's a little bit more akin to in terms of it being a car with full upgrades and a bit more matched to what his 270R car is. And of course, Chris, if he is racing this year as well, which I haven't exactly seen what his plans are for this year, if anything, but if he is racing this year, this is the spec of car that he'll race. So for him, this really is the ultimate bit of practice before he kicks in for 2022 should he be on the grid.
Yeah, he's absolutely going to be racing this year in the 310R for real. So he absolutely, he gets him dialed in, and everything it's got a likeness, but as much as anything, it's just like we're getting back used to talking on the commentary stream again for the drivers. It's just about getting into that mindset of how do you race for that long. When you're on board, it is really easy to forget that you're in this virtual world, and here he is in his Caterham coming down Hanger Straight.
So here's the onboard shot then. This is, of course, one of the first onboard shots that you'll see of the brand new Caterham 310R car, and you get to see pretty much from the driver's view what it looks like to throw this car around the Silverstone International Circuit. Of course, the southern loop of the full Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. As he heads down under the brakes through Vale and then through the double apex right-hander club to get onto what's now called the Sir Lewis Hamilton Straight. As they come on to the end of another lap, he's got about 3 minutes to go, so enough time to try and improve that time. He's got currently 1:15.9 to try and beat. He comes across the line as 1:16.6. He at the moment stays inside the top 10 in 8 fastest. Will Rossetti still has the fastest time in the session, 1:15.905. Christian Zaruta in second place. Andrew Parker third. I think it's again bit of loss. I think it's Jensen Haas. I think if I'm correct.
That's correct. Yeah.
It's yeah. Got it first. Got it try first. I'm not so hopeless after all. Jensen Haas the fourth, got the quickest. Just over a tenth and a half off pole. That's from Ryan Hooker, who we'll talk about in a second. He's someone who is relatively, I think, new to the Group A, but not new to the caterhamracer.com grids because he has raced, I think, many of the B group before getting up to speed. Then we have Chris Skillicorn in 6th position. We've got Richard Gallagher in 7th place, Ben McConaughey in 8th. We've got John Lang in 9th. And Steve Arnell in 10th. Tom McEwing, who I think was just going for a spin there through club, is 11th. Tom Willis 12th. James Fowler 13th. Paul Furderhuff, Jason Knight. And then we have a newcomer on this grid for tonight, which is, I think, Mitchell Costas. And Costas, of course, someone who has done some karting and some MX5 track day running. So Costas having his first proper run in the Caterham Racer grid. It's great to have a newcomer, as always, on board. We do have plenty of other newcomers on the grid, but they're actually on grid B. So the volume of how many people that wanted to get involved tonight, but there is a quite full B grid tonight, which is good to see. Hopefully we'll see some more of those new drivers make a graduation to grid A a couple of times if they get quick enough efforts in the pre-qualifying stage to get themselves onto the A grid. And then we have Jamie Peters Ennis on the grid in 17th place. Now for him, he's racing a little bit handicapped, and I say that in the politest way possible, mainly because he had the misfortune of having to go to A&E this morning because for fracturing his ankle. Hopefully you won't mind me saying that. But so he's having to race with basically with auto blip on the clutch. He can't use the clutch pedal like he would do normally. So he's currently at the moment in the 17th place on the grid. But I have to say, despite that, and despite having to use the auto clutch, which may or may not be a disadvantage depending on how you look at it, to be only just over a second off pole position and have filled this close. Yes, it's quite close, but to be only over a second off, I have to say, credit to him. He's still got plenty decent pace, fractured ankle or not.
Yeah, I think you'd be doing well to drive with a fractured ankle in real life. So again, it's another advantage of this online world that we live in, that he can come back from an A&E this morning and still race with us this evening. It's great to see him on the grid circulating. We've just 30 seconds of this qualifying, just like in real life. If you get across the line, you can finish the lap that you start. So most of these drivers are finishing their last lap, and just like in real life, you can see Jamie's in the slipstream of Chris Skillicorn ahead of him, and that's a great car to be following around. I have noticed that my connection ping is slightly high tonight. I'm hoping that the drivers are all got a better connection than I have to the server, and that's why you'll see the cars occasionally do little glitches and twists that you're not expecting them to see. But Jamie is absolutely in this slipstream, looking to see whether he can move further up the grid than 17th. But like you said, only a second between him and the top pole position time is really nothing around a track like this.
And of course, it is, with it being the southern part of the circuit, where it's mainly lots of long straights with a couple of tighter corners, it is very much a circuit where, you know, slipstreaming is quite crucial, but at the same time, so is getting your line right, and also, of course, so is trying to nail the brakes, because those two big braking stops, particularly here into Vale, where it is a prime overtaking opportunity, and also into the complex at Village, those two spots are going to be pretty crucial, particularly when you're coming from quite high speed sections. So trying to get the car positions right and getting yourself into a position where making a move in those bigger braking zones is viable. The setup has to come up places like here, down the pit straight and down the hangar straight on the back end of the circuit in order to try and get that set up. But you have got faster corners before that. You have got Abbey and then Village before you go into a loop. You've also got Stowe corner before you get up towards Vale. So it's to run down that back straight and then setting yourself up to get a good position off the faster corner that then gives you the chance to get into that braking zone first and hopefully in front of your rival if you go to brake. So those, I think, are the two key things to watch out for: how drivers get themselves onto those fast sections and how they line themselves up to make the moves, if they can, into those slower, bigger braking zones further around the lap at those particular points.
Yep, absolutely. And here this is our first view this year of the sort of grid as we will see them setting off for in the race.
Oh, it feels like I haven't done it in ages, but here we go. I'll try and shake off the rust and give us a rundown of the grid. So, to the first grid then of Season 7 for caterhamracer.com, the 2022 Winter Warmer, reads as follows. It's a single race tonight, 25 minutes, not the usual 2 50-minute races that we've had in the past. One longer race to fit in to get our first qualification race done and dusted. So, Will Rossetti then will start the first race on pole position. He does so by only 77 thousandths of a second from Ryan Hooker, who starts on the front. Really impressive front race start for him. The previous season 6 winner Christian Zaruta will start third on the second row alongside Andrew Parker, who was looking pretty good in the session handy earlier on, so he'll be one to look for the second row. Jensen Hassler, who's been was pretty decent in the first couple of times we saw him, he lines at fifth alongside Richard Gallagher. Then it's Chris Skillicorn and last year's real-life 270R champion Blair McConaughey getting a first proper virtual taste of his 310R race car. He starts in 8th ahead of John Lang, who was ever improving in his debut season last year, and Steve Arnell, who pretty much knows this car already better than the back of his hand, starting from 10th. 11th on the grid, we'll see Tom McEwing, who I believe, getting correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's doing Academy this year, if not next year. Did he put it on hold, I think? I think it's this year, isn't it?
I can't remember the exact details of that, whether it's been moved, but yeah, we'll keep an eye out for him on the racetrack for real, for sure.
Well, whether he's a budding academy driver, be it this year or next year, but he is going to be in the academy at some point. He'll start alongside a double Caterham champion in the academy and road sport, Tom Willis. Then it's James Fowler and Paul Fernerhuff from Jason Knight and Mitchell Costas, and then it is Jamie Peterson at the back of the grid in 17th place. And we were also expecting Jaroslav Cherny if he could make it in, but I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, he either chose not to set a time or didn't set a time, wasn't able to get himself in time, but he is showing actually being on the grid in 18th. Maybe he chose not to start a time and start for the back of the grid if he is there. And I think looking at the back, I can just make out his red car just underneath Chris Silverstone. I think if he is, yes, he is there at the back of the grid. So Jaroslav Cherny, who we know is incredibly quick, starting with the back of the grid with some pretty guys up towards the front. He'll be one to watch if he can pick his way through. And I think the circuit like this, with 25 minutes, knowing how quick he is, that might not be, it may or may not be quite a simple task. And again, this is caterhamracer.com racing and nothing.
Yeah.
Simple in motorsport, real or virtual.
Yeah, just to say, we are getting some strange interference on Scott's voice. Well, I think it might be my connection. I'm seeing a slightly higher ping than I would normally expect. And we'll see whether Cherny does actually start this race, because it could be that his car's just there until he was certainly practicing earlier. Oh, we've got the lights coming up, Scott.
Okay then, well, we'll see exactly how that works, how it all plays out. The race is about to get underway. Then the first race of Season 7 of the 2022 Winter Warmer is all set to get underway. One car got away rather prematurely, but the lights are out and we are underway for Season 7 as they head down towards Turn 1 for the first time. The camera looks a bit zoomed in there on the stream, but we'll look at that in a second. As now Rossetti heads in towards Turn 1. As they pick their way through, it is Rossetti from pole who leads the way up through Village and into the loop for the first time. So Rossetti leads, Hooker in second place. There's a swap on for third between Hassler on the outside of Zaruta. Andrew Parker's up to fifth position. It's then Gallagher, Skillicorn, Lang, McConaughey and McEwing who are already in the top 10, but Rossetti heading through the loop and trying to escape onto the hangar straight for the first time. They turn their way through the right-hander and now they get the proper chance to stretch their legs under race conditions. 25 minutes of Caterham racing, more akin to what you'd find in real-life Caterham racing, because the real-life 310Rs will race for 30 minutes in the official Factory Caterham Motorsport Championship. And already, Chris, down towards Stowe, they are fanning out, going 2 and 3 abreast, and the race walking for position down towards Stowe at the end of the hangar straight.
Yeah, Hassler just taking over from Christian Zaruta there, although they're still side by side as they come out of Stowe. Lots have got a spin there. John Lang at the back there looks like he's been collected, and there's a lot of shuffling going on. Another car, I think that was maybe Tom Willis, getting spun to the inside. It could have been James Fowler. We'll have a look at that. But yeah, Will Rossetti getting the absolute dream start, isn't he? Drifting off the front of the grid, and with Ryan Hooker there just absolutely finding some speed this season in second place there, again with a great thing. We got Paul Fernerhuff going through the pit, so he was the guy we saw taking a jump start, as Christian Zaruta now is still having his battle with Jensen Hassler. He's just about made it stick into the Abbey, but whether that remains in place, I don't know, but he's certainly had some speed on the service, so I expect him to catch up that gap now to Ryan Hooker. Andrew Parker there making a really late dive down the inside of Village Loop there, and it's just about made that stick. They all got through.
Only about a lap and a bit in run, and we're already going 3 abreast. Goodness me, we are back, aren't we? So top 2 making an original break. Rossetti led across the line to lead the first lap, and it's Ryan Hooker behind by about 1.4 seconds. Then everyone else trying to be third. It's Hassler, Zaruta, Andrew Parker, Skillicorn, Gallagher and Cherny, who did start this race, and he's already up to 8th position. I kind of saw that coming in a prospect. But then again, with a brand new car and probably not that much mileage compared to anyone else, it makes it even more impressive that he's managed to pick his way through. He's already up the inside of Richard Gallagher into 7th place and trying to carve his way through. He's obviously got past, I think, Andy Parker as well. So he took 2 for the price of 1 into Stowe. Meanwhile, it's Hassler versus Zaruta. As now we watch again. Oh, there was contact. Round going to the complex at Vale. That was Journey into the back of Skithercorn. Both of them went around. It looks like the one that got away with the least amount of disruption there was Journey, ironically, after the contact, as Rossetti sets the fastest lap of the race. That will have to be looked after the race, I'm sure, but I think it looked like possibly he was quite squeezed in because he had Arnell just behind him in the braking zone. Tried to move across to take another position as much as he could. I'm not quite sure Skithercorn quite saw it coming, but at the same time, I think Jassa did leave that lunge, making it a bit too optimistic in my view. How did you see it?
Yeah, it was. The camera was really sort of in tight, so we didn't really see the whole movement. There was definitely contact from in front and behind, so he was definitely a little bit of a sandwich. But who jumped or pushed? It's hard to know at this stage. We'd have to look back at the replays, and we do that as part of our service here. We do have a sort of a complaints procedure that we follow, just like you do in real life, and we will investigate and have a look at to see who should have served a penalty. We have a sort of inline penalty system where we ask the drivers if they do make contact and it was their fault, then if they wait for the driver they made contact with, then they can serve their penalty in line. But we have got a post-race procedure that we can also put in place if someone doesn't think it was their fault, but we then need to do a sort of investigation.
So as a consequence of the contact, Skithercorn down to 15th place, whereas Cherney trying to recover back from 9th. Switch on for 3rd as Zaruta makes the move through Vale and Club to get himself into a podium place, but Hassler will stay in the slipstream. Remember, if you watched these races before, for the slipstream in a set of course, you have to get under the magical half a second to get yourself a toke from the car in front. And just as they go through the curb, this fantastic ground level, almost GoPro style shot of the car flashing through turn 1. You saw there, that was Tom McEwing up to 5th position, picking his way through some of the shenanigans just around them in the last lap and a half or so. And Cheney back up to 7th. Mitchell Costas is up there, Scrappers. Mitchell Costas starting a little bit further back in the grid, but he's now up into the top 10, battling with Cheney. These two really going at it. It's not bad for a new boy, taking on someone who's been a caterhamracer.com champion before in the past, but he's now going wheel to wheel with the bright red number 01 down the back straight, and you can see Cheney looking for the shortest run down the hanger straight, going right all the way tight to the inside line, and just trying to get away from any possible slipstream behind him. And that tighter line seems to have worked, and as coupled that with the better exit, he powers his way through Mitchell Costas and actually does manage to get that move done before he even tried to retaliate at the end of the back straight. So despite the contact there, Chris, he's already back up to 7th place and driving as if it never even happened. Yeah,
it's good to have Cherney back on the server. He's a really rapid driver, and other than the contact we've seen there, it's very rare to see him make contact with other cars, even though he's had to come back through the whole field to get to where he is at the moment. So yeah, nice to have him back here, a fully active involved member again, and fully involved. We've got some more spinning at the back, Jamie Peters-Ennis, and that looks like Blair McConaughey, and there's a bit of Chris Skillicon almost got caught up in it as well, as they all try and sort themselves out and rejoin, but that's going to upset them. A reminder that tonight all the drivers are looking to take one of three qualifying spots available tonight for the top 3 finishers into our grand final. So once they've done that, they can continue to race with us throughout the season, but they will have done their job of the opening part of this to get their car qualified for the grand final.
Yeah, so top 3 to look out for is to get themselves an automatic qualifying spot, and that will be the case in the next 3 races that are all qualification races. So we'll find ourselves with a few more drivers that make it up at their spots, and so once they've qualified, some drivers may occasionally decide to carry on and do more races to kind of keep themselves in hand, whilst others will simply choose to wait until the final grand final comes up, which will be in March. And a couple of these drivers, unless they choose to do more races, it might be the only time that you see them this particular season until we get to the final. So keep an eye on that one. Rossetti, though, meanwhile, in front by just over 3 seconds in the lead in this race so far. It's Hooker in 2nd place, and then Zaruta, who's managed to get out of the half a second margin for slipstream. He's now managed to pull away. He's pulled away another 3/10 or so as Hooker turns his way into Abbey Corner once again. This course of the view of Will Rossetti in his Golf liveried car, duck egg blue and orange. Very much akin to the same livery that he runs in real life. So just like his real race car, his digital race car is also sporting Golf style colours, but Will I think tried to take a second bite of the apex there through the loop, but not quite sure he got the corner bite right there, unless that was just a small little glitch on the server in terms of the the signal. But even so, Rossetti managed to just about hold on to the lead there as they turned the way through. And a big slide there from James Fowler, who gets himself into the turn. Now Steve Arnell, of course, as we said, Steve Arnell, he and it was Andy Roberts, I think it was, who was the other test driver. Forgive me if I got that wrong.
Andy Howard is the name you're looking for?
Andy Howard, that was it. So Andy Howard, so he and Steve Arnell have been the main test drivers of this model, along with Ben Obro. So you could see these three getting plenty of mileage in this car to get it up to speed. James Fowler holding on to the last top 10 spot at the moment. Chris Kindercorn trying to recover it into them. He said quite an action-packed first few laps. He had that contact with Jaroslav Cherny. And then, of course, he then got caught up with JP Zenit. So not been the smoothest of starts to his season 7 as a bit of a Chris, but certainly he's been quite amongst the action and still doing well to hold on to the 11th place and not too far away from trying to pick up some time to get himself into the top 10. Another driver who's struggling a little bit as well is also Tom Willis here in 13th place, and I've also noticed Blair McConaughey also involved in that. And I think I remember we saw him and JP Zennis got involved in a little bit of contact. Jamie's continued on in 16th, and of course Blair McConaughey is at the back of the field in 18th spot. Just come across the line now, I think, and he's about 5 seconds away from John Lang, who also had that first lap spin going in through Stowe Corner on the first lap. So all sorts of action here, but just how and speaking of action, there's James Fowler. Now that's quite an odd place to spin, I think, Chris. He's spun practically halfway down the pit at the back straight. So that incident must have started way back at the right-hander at the loop, but it's carried on for another kind of couple of 100 metres until he's eventually had that incident and had a spin. So quite an unusual pace to spin, but it was quite a long accident by the look of it.
Yeah, it's very easy. Let's say the rear end of these cars, once they start losing traction, if you're not ultra careful with the power, it's quite hard to gather them all up. And it looks like it took him sort of a quarter of the length of the straight to do so, but he's now back and fully involved again, looking at battling with Jamie around the final corner here, back onto the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight. It's side by side as they go. It's not really a lot of room for side by side going around there, even with a Caterham. This track is ultra wide for Caterhams. You can see that we could actually go 5 wide into most corners, but of course that just means it's really quick, and there's drifting wide there out of that final corner. We'll see if that sort of ended in tears. It didn't. They continue on, but yeah, because you can fit so many cars wide, but if you don't take that fastest line, you are going to be nowhere. So every time you see drivers defending or going up the inside, taking extreme lines, it means that they're going to be costing themselves time, and that's why people like Will Rossetti, who've got away clean at the front here, are just able to run away with it.
I have to say, side by side through the right hand, the second part of the club complex, that's difficult enough in real life to watch Caterhams go side by side and see how they're able to squeeze their way through. But to manage that in the sim, even though there is technically less risk, being a virtual car compared to a real one, doesn't make it any less difficult. So for them to go side by side and not make contact in that manner, it's pretty impressive. New fastest lap of the race, that's even quicker than qualifying, bear in mind. 1:15.886 for Rossetti, so there's rarely, if not zero, differences in setup between qualifying and the race, and that might even include how the fuel loads set as well. So if we turn the way out through the complex, it's interesting to see that Will Rossetti's lead is now up to 4.6 seconds at this point, and 4.7 over Ryan Hooker in second place. Saruta, the defending Series 6 champion, in third, Jensen Hassler fourth, McEwing fifth, and it's Gallagher, Cherney, Costas, Arnell and Skiddercorn. So Cherney's charge seems to have halted a bit here in P7. Watching here Jason Knight back in 14th spot. He's having a battle for the best of the rest outside the top 10 with Tom Willis, Paul Fernhoff and Andrew Parker, who again was a little bit further up the order, but he got shuffled away. He was quite high up, about sort of third or fourth position, but he's now back down in 13th place with plenty of work to try and make up. But I was about to say he's got plenty of time to do it, but of course we've now just passed the 12-minute mark. We're getting up towards the halfway stage already. Doesn't feel like it though. Time really does fly when you're having fun, that's the saying. And we've only had about roughly sort of 11 minutes or so, and there's been plenty of action to talk about just these first 11 minutes of the new season. Yeah,
and I don't think that action's over. I was about to say that it looks like these front 3 places have settled down, but actually Sharuta's definitely catching up with Hooker at the moment, and Hasler's definitely catching up with Sharuta. So all this sort of battle for second place, while Rossetti still looks fairly comfortable out front, the battle for second does look like it's compressing. Obviously, Sharuta's in a safe qualification spot at the moment, but so he doesn't want to really lose out this spot early season to Jensen. But obviously, Jensen will be thirsty to go and take that from him.
Indeed, and I think also as well, it's key thing, we're talking about how Hassler's still there and caught back up. It technically, he never really lost that gap too much. He lost the position, but he hasn't really fallen away that much from Christian. In fact, he's doing his utmost to not only keep up with him, but go with him to catch up to Ryan. So you're absolutely correct. Ryan Hooker's gap is coming down, but the motivation for Ryan to keep pushing is that he can still see, for the most part, down the pits, the back straight, Will Rossetti in the distance. The only thing is the gap is ever slowly edging outwards. It's now 5 seconds as Rossetti heads his way under brakes in towards the left-hander at Vale and into Club, into the complex. And then we've got Hooker there in second place with Zaruta and Hassler third and fourth there. And we're now on board Richard Gallagher, who's now battling for fifth position. He's got 1.6, 1.7 seconds over Jaroslav Cherny behind him. I did say that his charge back up from where he was has halted at about 7th position, so he's got to try and take advantage of these two battling to build that gap in, and it is starting to shrink a bit more. It's down to 1.4 as we remain on board with Gallagher. They're going to go side by side down towards the right-hander at Abbey, and you can see the red car just behind these two. That is Jaroslav Cherny closing in pretty quickly. Did a 1:16.1 there. The gap's under 1.3. And looks like McEwen was probably going to have to brave it out around the outside for the first part of that complex. Back under brakes to turn into the loop. And look at that, McEwen absolutely saw that coming, does the undercut, little kiss of the right front wheel, and up into fifth position he goes. And Gallagher may not have a chance to relax here because already, look, there's not that much of time for him to get straight to the back because Jaroslav Cherny in that red cage, number 01, is straight onto the roll cage of Richard Gallagher to pick up another position. So it was going pretty well for Richard. He was trying to make a position, made it up briefly, but then not only did Tom McEwen get back through, he's now allowed, they're both their antic, as I predicted, has now allowed Jaroslav Cherny to get back into the mix. He may well take 2 for the price of 1 if he's able to work his way through, get into the top 5 with 11 minutes still to go.
Yeah, obviously top 5 doesn't mean anything other than a bit of pride, but if you're in 5th place and they have an issue at front with all those gaps coming down, you never know what you're going to pick up, so you always want to be as high up as you can just to see whether you can pick up the pieces. And this battle looks like it's the hottest one on track right now, and Richard Gallagher, like you say, did initially make some time up and make a place up, but wasn't able to hold it, and we see that in real life here. As Cherny does go up the inside there, going around they've made contact. So we see Richard Gallagher there having to take to the grass. So that gives McEwen now a nice, comfortable gap behind, and both Gallagher and Cherny have lost out to Mitchell Costas.
Smoothest of evenings for Jaroslav Cherny on his comeback, but he's managed to rejoin back in 9th position. He's still behind Richard Gallagher, I think, out of courtesy, considering if there was any contact. He just wanted to make sure that he didn't take a place unfairly by continuing on whilst Richard Gallagher was recovering. So he's now managed to get back onto the ground. He's gone back down to 9th place. Ironically, behind him now is the man he made contact with a few laps ago. That's Chris Gillicorn, who is in his draft. He's now trying to re-catch Gallagher. If you look just at the rearview mirror just at the top of the screen, you can see the red cage down the centre of the shot. That there is Jaroslav Cherny, but he's there coming under big pressure from Chris Gillicorn. Now all 3 of them are starting to chase after Steve Arnell here for 7th place. We should mention also that Mitchell Costas has worked his way by simply not just on his decent enough pace, but also just keeping his nose out of trouble, has worked his way up into 6th position on his debut. So incredible stuff for Mitchell to keep himself out of trouble and out of the mischief, get himself up into on the verge of a top 5. And even though it won't give him a qualification spot, Chris, to be P6 and to pretty much keep you cool whilst everyone else has literally been losing theirs at several stages of this race. Very impressive and very clean and precise drive from Mitchell on his first run so far. He has still got 9.25 minutes to try and stay there or try and finish as high as he can. To be as high as P6, not just on pace, but a little bit of luck as well. Impressive stuff so far on his debut.
You call it luck, I call it, good driving and good, racecraft. Another driver I'm looking at now, Paul Ferneyhough. We saw him jump that start at the beginning and he had to drive through the pit, so he has clearly kept his nose clean as well, because he is now battling here with Andrew Parker, who's fallen back through the field a little bit, but he's kept his nose clean and is now sort of happily there up in sort of 12th position, whereas Cherny, I think, off again on the inside there, losing the rear end of the car, as we see Andrew Parker all over the back of Paul Ferneyhough coming down here. But yeah, just keeping his nose tidy, and he's progressed up through the field from what looked like a bad start.
Doing well so far. Rossetti just keeps on pumping in these fast laps. 1:15.661, so he's lapping at least half a second quickly on the car behind him, which is absolutely astonishing. I know we've talked about in the past where some of these model cars, whether it is the Academy or the 420R machine, some drivers seem to favour it over the other. Well, something about this 310R car just really has, or which is with this circuit, or just in general with how this car feels, something really has just clicked with Will Rossetti in this 310R, because he's absolutely romping away at the front by almost 7 seconds here. He's out on his own in no man's land. And keep on waiting. There's second place of Ryder, there's Zaruta, and there is Hasler. So they are on the same straight together, but by the time they get off the top end of the hang straight, he's already about at least halfway down it. There is Tom McEwen on his own in no man's land in 5th position, 6 seconds behind, 6.5 seconds or so behind Hasler. He's a further 6 seconds ahead of Costas. Then we've got the recovering Skithercorn and Willis. And Jaroslav Cherny, who did recover back in 9th, he's dropped on a couple more spots in fact, so he's now down to 11th place behind Tom Willis and Steve Varnell. The rest of the pack coming through. See Parker in there for now. Peter Dennis is back to 14th after his couple of incidents. Then we've got Knight, Lang, Fowler, and then McConaughey. So we've seen all 18 cars go through the shop down the hanger straight. Quite a fantastic picture there to watch them come through. We go back to our camera looking up the Sir Lewis Hamilton pit straight on this wing complex. The wing pits off the screen on the left-hand side. Top 4 going through with Jensen Hassler just trying to keep up with Zaruta. Of course, this is the final automatic qualification spot to get yourself into the grand final, which will either be at Alton Park or Anglesey. That will be decided on driver choice. Be a vote towards the end as Hassler just thumped the curb. And you know these cars are quite a bit tail happy, but thumping the curbs like that certainly won't do drivers any favours, because of course they're nervous enough as it is, but if you start to take full use of the curbs and abuse them a little bit more, that car might not be pointing in the same direction, in the right direction for much longer. It keeps on thumping the curbs like that.
No, absolutely, and they really are unsettled by those curbs. They are huge in real life as they are in our simulator. The sausage curbs absolutely throw the car up. They upset all the grip and the balance, and it sort of throws the car, and it takes actually quite a little while to settle down again. So yeah, it's definitely something you want to avoid doing on the sim as well as in real life, and I'm sure he will be taking that, and I'm sure it wasn't deliberate in any way, but yes, he will be avoiding them from now on, I'm sure.
So I've seen MX-5s almost either the imitations of Duke forming a new rallycross division by just those sort of curbs, either right on the inside, particularly off that section that's around to the village loop section on the inside on the runoff area. So one to be very careful of. Steaming around the outside there with Steve Arnell to essentially defend and try and retake the position from Andrew Parker, who has now seen Jaroslav Cherny get past him and start to pull away, but Parker's the one doing the attacking to try and get back here. So Arnell trying to defend, did so successfully going through Vale by going back around the outside. They're going to be side by side through Abbey. He's also got Paul Ferdinand and Jamie Peter-Zenitz also in there too. So this is 11th down to 14th, scrapping over the best of the rest spot and looking right to the inside line. There is Ferdinand. It's going to be 3 abreast into the complex at the loop. Almost 4 abreast because Peter-Zenitz tried to go around the outside. You almost get squeezed out wide by Ferdinand, but he managed to get his nose in front. Ferdinand says after you. That's him have the position for the moment, but I'm sure he'll try and get him back to set him up for a run down the back straight, and also trying to recover there. Jason Fowler there in 15th position. So 5 cars in the mix, and behind him in the background, both Fowler and that was Fowler and Lang in synchronised spinning, waltzing in perfect harmony, as James Hunt once said. So that certainly was the case there. Both of them simply must have gone too hot into the corner trying to defend from each other. As a result of that, just lost a bit of grip and round it went. And we said these things were tail happy. That was a perfect demonstration of why you don't get onto the power too soon, too quickly.
Yeah, so a lap ago, Andrew Parker actually ran wide out of Stowe there, and that's what started this whole thing off. Steve Arnell had a great bit of opportunistic move around the outside of Andrew into the first part of Vale, but has been able to hold him off, but he's obviously looking like Andrew is the faster of the cars. He's obviously had some issues throughout this race, with another fast lap there set by Cherny, but nowhere near the Rossetti pace that we've got out front there. He really is, as you say, got to grips with this car, but this is the moment, the tightest battle we got here. There's some really nice battles further on down the field, even though the guys out front are spread out a little bit.
Yeah, talking about spread out, 8 seconds is the margin between Rossetti and Hooker. Was the scrap for 11th continues to rage between Alan Parker. Peter Zenitz is keeping in touch in 13th place. He's just off the shot, off screen to the right. You'll see him in a second as they come through the loop onto the hanger straight. There he is, just flashing through in the background, the white car with the Pride decals on it as well, and the purple roll cage. And now we see here another slipstream battle as we see Parker just tucked into the slipstream of Arnell, just trying to get himself underneath the roll cage. He looks at the inside line, but Arnell has that better racing line, which means he can carry that momentum and carry the speed so much better. But the traction off the corner will be better for Parker, and Arnell was very close to making contact, and that will be much benefit to Jamie Peters-Ennis, but that was very close for Steve Arnell. If he'd been a little bit further back and actually caught Andy Parker, that could have been pretty much game over with just under 3 minutes to go for both of them. They could have gone straight to the back of the field, and that could have been quite a disastrous incident.
Yeah, perfect illustration of how finicky the rear end of the car can be, and like you say, it was very, very tight on the rear. It was his turn to make a mistake, wasn't it? It seems like everyone has an adventure around Stowe every lap. It depends an awful lot on how you enter the corner and how much speed you take in as to how settled the car is. Got Jamie Peters and Steve Arnell there fighting still tooth and nail. Steve Arnell looks like he's thrown it up the inside, and let's see whether he's actually come out on side. Yes, he's come out ahead in this particular point. Jamie Peters is right back around the outside, but that's going to leave him a really tight line now onto this hanger straight, which is really not what you want. You want to carry all the speed out onto the straight, and I imagine we're going to see Steve Arnold take that place back.
Yeah, they'll be side by side down that back straight. They're also going to be careful that Paul Fernhoff, Jason Knight, and the recovering Blair McConaughey don't come into play in the next few moments as well. Just behind us, well, we've still got Fowler versus Lang in the background. That was Lang going incredibly wide, but here's the overhead kind of helicopter shot, if you like, or the drone shot, watching these two from the top. Peters looking again for that undercut, and he'll try and position himself around the outside. And you can go down the outside into Vale with them positioning you on the inside line for the first part of the club, but you have to really pull quite a deep braking manoeuvre and then try and find the grip. And he's going for it. He's going for it on the second part on the inside line. Exactly what I was trying to describe there, and that is actually a superb pass from Jamie Peters to go up the inside line, clips the curb on the inside up to 12th place. That is exactly the kind of move I was just trying to describe and lay out to get that run down the outside to have the grip, and then force you to have force the guy in your back to give you the inside line for the next corner, and park the car on the apex, put the foot to the floor, try not to get the car too tail happy, and away you go into 12th place. Now, looks like Arnell will try and come back at him. Further is in there too. They're going to be almost 3 abreast into the loop. Here comes Further, going to make a move to try and depose Arnell from another position, this time taking 13th place away from him. With less than a minute to go, this is now Peters-Ennis, who now is in front, but where he was the Hunter last time, now the Hunter this time down the back straight with not much longer of this race to go.
Yeah, and if you don't think that Caterhams do this in real life, you are very mistaken. Definitely head to Silverstone to watch these events. On a track this wide, it is absolutely the same kind of racing. And you know, just as soon as these two have gone battling, you can see how much everyone else has closed up to the rear, and that's why it's very rare for Caterham racing. Oh, Steve Arnell lost the rear again. He's really got a wobble on. He's going to hit the wall on the inside of Vale there. So that's a sad end to his race after a great battle.
Quite literally exit stage right from the shot. Now then, this is now for second and third place, because Christian Zurita, whilst you're watching back in the pack, we're pretty much, I think, on the last lap of the race now, as we see Rossetti will head down the back straight and towards Stowe for the final time. So we are going to get the checker flag this time. Looks like Hassel will have to settle for 4th position, but he might get a podium if anything occurs between these two, because Ryan Hooker has been caught by Christian Zurita. It's the final lap of the race in the slipstream down towards Stowe. Will Zurita be able to move out and try and make a move down the inside? He's linking about it, shows his nose into the right-hander, but as they turn their way through, now he might have forced Hooker to go deep there. That's a classic racing technique to try and force the guy in front to make a mistake and to drive on his mirrors. And again, we saw Jamie Peters-Ennis do this. They come down towards the complex. We'll look at Rossetti in a second. Of course, he's in the lead. They come into the complex round the outside. He can make it stick, and you think he will make it stick. Meanwhile, what a dominant first race of the season it is for Rossetti. He goes up into victory and takes the win. And Hooker, though, despite the best efforts of Zurita trying to go around the outside, he will have to settle for second place with Zurita in third, and Hassler will get fourth. So Rossetti, Hooker, and Zurita are the 3 automatic qualifiers. Hassler fourth, and Tom McEwing on his own, quite literally in 5th position. Now we wait for the rest of the pack to come through. Richard Gallagher managed to pick his way back up into 6th to the place Mitchell Costas. A great drive for Mitchell, though, on his first night in the A grid. 7th place, really good effort for Mitchell. Well done to him. 8th for Chris Githercourt, 9th for Jarosław Jenny, but he will hope for more after his cup has a couple of contacts. And he's just got Tom Willis behind him in 10th position. Now for 11th downwards, there's Andy Parker. And then what's happening for 12th? Well, we've got Paul Ferdinand is up to 12. Blair McConaughey's up to 13 at the end. And it was side by side. He almost got 12 on the line because Ferdinand was right there alongside him. And McConaughey did move out to try and get him on the sprint to the flag, but he just missed out. So McConaughey 13th, Knight 14th, Peters-Ennis down to 15th, but he still makes it to the flag in one piece. Arnell, after his couple of spins, 16th incredibly, and he effectively, they were so that far ahead of both Lang and Fowler. Arnell still finished 16th ahead of both of them, who had that spin, battling all the way to the flag as well. So 1 or 2 bumps and spins along the way, but effectively mostly everyone got to the flag just about unscathed and effectively in one piece. So Will Rossetti then is the first winner of Season 7 of the caterhamracer.com 2022 Winter Warmer Series. and it is a victory for him by nearly 9.5 seconds, bordering on 10 seconds. That's very un-Caterham or un-Caterham racer-like, if you ask me. Ryan Hooker in second place. He just about holds off Christian Zaruta by almost 0.2 of a second. It's those three drivers, Rossetti, Hooker, and Zaruta, that have those three automatic qualifying spots for the final at the beginning of March. Then it's Jensen Hassler fourth, Tom McEwen fifth, Richard Gallagher sixth. Then it's Mitchell Costas, Chris Gillicorn, Jaroslav Cherney, and Tom Willis who round out the top 10. And then there was lots of battles going on in that second half as well, which included in 11th place Andrew Parker, and it's Paul Fernhoff, Blair McConaughey, and Jason Knight. Then we had Jamie Heath, Zenith, Steve Barnell. They were in plenty of action tonight, as was also with John Lang and James Fowler too as well. I think that's woken us up, isn't it? I think that's shaken off the rust after that kind of race. That was pretty intense from start to finish. And again, I think what was interesting to see, what surprised me a little bit, and there's no slight in his ability whatsoever, was we know that Rossetti's a quick driver, but just how quick he was in this 310R, even I'm staggered at how quick he was. That was pretty incredible. To go up against guys like Shirley, who had his troubles, and Zaruta, who was quick enough anyway, but for real to jump straight into that car, again, I said earlier on in the race, there was that these different cars have one or two drivers that seem to favour them over the others. And I think Will's found his favourite Caterham out of the three that we have available. He seems to have clicked with his 310R absolutely straight away, and it seems to be gelling with it pretty quickly. To win by almost 10 seconds, battles behind him or not, seriously impressive for Will. Really good driving tonight.
Yeah, you can see his car here in the shade. Unfortunately, the wing is casting a big shadow over it. And we haven't got Will to actually talk to at the moment. So, unfortunately, I won't be able to do a winner's interview. But like you say, he's absolutely sort of hooked into the car. And he's been one for quite a few seasons now. He doesn't like the understeery kind of nature of some of the cars that we've had so far. And as I said, it's definitely more rear-focused. And drivers in real life as well as, in the virtual world all do favour different sort of setup balances, and the Caterham by its very nature is quite a neutral car to drive, so you can actually tweak the setup to your liking, and it seems like this 310 is absolutely set up as he wants on our servers.
Yeah, excellent stuff. And well, of course, he'll be having plenty of chance to go and practice, I guess, either Alton Parker or Anglesey, depending on what's chosen, meaning he's suitably prepared to try and get himself a victory in the final. Of course, great jobs from both as well, Ryan Hooker and Christian Zaruta, as with also Jensen Hassler to keep it close in fourth. Interesting dynamic between those three. Hooker did try to keep with Rossetti early on, but of course Will's incredible pace meant that all he could do was drive his own race. It was only towards the end in which he's found Christian on his tail trying to pick up the position. So again, a great effort from Ryan. I think he has done a couple of Grid A races previously, but to show some great pace given his extensive real-world experience in sport prototypes and GTs and the like, just shows how credible he is in terms of racing and how well he's gotten onto this server and promptly well. Yeah,
it's a brilliant job, and like I say, he's actually a Caterham tutor in real life, so you can go and get some race instruction from Ryan, so he is available for that, and yeah, just showing his speed on the server tonight. Just looking down our list, and we also haven't got Ryan on board either. So what I will do is he's normally up for a chat. We'll grab Christian in and see how his race was. Christian, have you got us in the commentary box?
Hello.
So welcome to season 7. You have a little bit of a battle at the end there, sort of tricky first few laps, but settled into a kind of mid phase where you were just trying to catch up, and right at the death there, you actually did find yourself on the rear panel, but I'm guessing there was a little bit of caution, didn't want to throw away your qualifying spot.
Oh no, I'd have absolutely thrown it away.
I mean, it's so therefore he just got the better of you, so I've taken away one of your excuses.
Yeah, he's obviously been practicing.
He is obviously a wily racer. He's got lots of real world experience, and but it's quite rare that we don't see you make it out on top. So maybe that's a good sign for this season that you're not going to have it all your own way.
Yeah, probably I'm a bit out of practice. I haven't really been on the static course so much since we finished the last one. So I'm sure I'll get back into the swing of it. But I think everyone has been practicing, which will make things very interesting.
We've obviously got the new car as well, which is actually a lot more rear end happy, isn't it? So it's quite tricky to keep the thing pointing in the right direction for the 25 minutes.
Yeah, and this is quite an easy circuit, so I tried to think what some of the more trickier more complex circuits will be like. It's certainly the margin for error is certainly a lot smaller in this one, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes on.
We like to set you a challenge, and let's see how you all cope with it. But yeah, your qualification spot is earned. So I guess, are you going to be joining us for some of the other races in between now and then? The finals obviously on the 1st of March.
Well, I think I'm going to have to.
Yeah,
Looking at the pace for everybody. So
get your eye in, get the racing practice, get it all back up and running. Yeah,
indeed. And racing driver excuses. I missed practice today because I was having my dinner, so that's my excuse laid on the table.
Thank you for that. We look forward to more good excuses going forward, and we'll speak to you next time.
Yes, very good.
Yes, always good for that. I'm not sure there's a real world equivalent of having to go and have my tea.
I think it's probably just going to, I don't know, get a coffee or digest a sport drink, really, off circuit, whatever it might be. But yeah, it's quite the interesting situation with the sim races, where it's different scenarios where kind of instead of having your tea, it's something else. But yeah, it's intriguing that Christian said that he was going to jump in and do some potentially one or two of the other qualification races, because we know we've had some drivers do that in the past, and the rule is that if you've already qualified, that essentially your position is it kind of a little bit invisible in the sense that you don't take up a qualifying spot. It's a case of whoever's behind you. So, for example, if Christian wins a race or finishes second, the driver that's immediately behind him will inherit that qualifying spot. So let's say Christian wins the next race, and he has 3 drivers, of course, second, third, and fourth. Christian will be essentially invisible from those qualifying spots. He'll still be counted as the winner, but it'll be second, third, and fourth, provided none of them are also at either Ryan Hooker or Will Rossetti. If it's 3 completely different drivers, the top 3 we've had in second, third, and fourth, they will gain those 3 automatic qualifying spots in their place. There's nothing stopping our first 3 automatic qualifiers from racing in the other races throughout the season. But of course, know that if they do, they won't take up any additional qualifying spots, because they will automatically go to drivers behind. They'll be invisible in that sense for those qualifying spots, but they can still race and get to grips with it. And that's intriguing that Christian said that he needs to get some more miles underneath it, because that seems to be the theme on this, particularly with this first race, is that some drivers seem to have clicked with this car pretty quickly. Others need a few more laps and a couple more race nights to get used to it a little bit more before the final. So I think this might be a theme across the season, just seeing how quickly these drivers can get more to grips with it, because the fact that some of these guys were quite new to this car might have played a little bit in terms of leveling the playing field and making it as close as it was. And I wonder, as we start to go through some of the next 2 or 3 races in this qualification races, to see if anyone starts to find, more and more drivers seem to find that little thing that just makes everything click together with the setup and how it works with their equipment and their driving style, how it works in terms of being able to get them on the pace. And I think even by the time we get to the final rounds and we get our ultimate grid of, let's say, 18 or so of drivers, I'm intrigued to see just how close it really can be between those guys and how much closer they'll be all together. Because another point, we've seen it over the last few seasons, that some drivers have just been steadily improving and getting quicker and quicker, and this total time gaps between first and last, so to speak, has gone from several seconds, 3, 4, 5 seconds or so. That tonight in qualifying, it was like 18 cars separated by just over a second, and that in itself shows again just how much progress many people have made, but also on the whole, just how damn competitive this league in this series really is.
It's been a little while since we've had everybody on the server together. For the last few seasons, Christian's just been racing Dave quite a lot, and Dave's not here today. He's actually had to go out karting this evening, so he'll be back with us later in this season. But yeah, everyone's back on the server together, and they all kind of egg each other on. So in the days between, even though they're not racing, they're still on the server practicing, and they can set hot laps, and anyone who's watching this and wants to get involved, you come to caterhamracer.com and you can find out all the information about how do you get involved in our races and our racing. But yeah, they all egg each other on, and I think that just pushes them to extra heights. But we've got some events coming up in the next over the next sort of 5 weeks from now. I'm sure Christian will be looking to do well at, and certainly some more technical tracks. Today's been fast, wide, and open, but the Cadwell's probably the polar opposite of that, isn't it? It's a real technical masterpiece. So we'll see how he gets on there.
So there's the full countdown. As we say, Cadwell Park comes next, and of course it's Knock Hill on the 8th of February. Stetson 300 on the 15th of February. Croft on the 22nd, we get our last chance saloon for those I think it's 6 remaining qualifying spots because it's 3 per qualifying race. And then, of course, depending on driver choice, it'll either be Alton Park or Anglesey Coastal on the 1st of March, where we get ourselves geared up for the real-life Caterham races, in particular Caterham Motorsport, which starts at the beginning of April. And that should certainly warm us up nice, not just for that, but also then for Season 8, which will then, I believe, is going to follow a bit more closely the real-life Caterham season across the year. That'll be a slightly more longer-term season as the year goes on, following the real-world calendar. So keep watching out for that for more details. Who knows, it may well feature more from this fantastic new 310R race car. Final thought from Chris, of course. Chris, excellent to be back. Excellent to be back with sim racing. It's good to kind of everyone start wiping away the cobwebs from taking the off-season off. It was a long year last year, quite a compressed year. Everyone's managed to get themselves recharged, and despite the anxiety of, what at one point, that seems to now hopefully be dissipating, and things hopefully should be, given that we are set to start once again back in March in general for the racing season. I think it looks like, hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, we're going to get something of a relatively normal season once again, starting back when it should be.
Yep, and hopefully I'll get all these gremlins out of the system, with my system being a little bit slow here, obviously affecting Scott's voice. So we'll get all that ironed out and back to our normal full stream and full quality. So thanks for bearing with us tonight, and we look forward to talking to you again, going through it all again next week.
Indeed. So join us next week then for more action from caterhamracer.com. Qualifying race number 2 from Cadwell Park. For myself, Scott Woodward, and Chris Hutchinson. Again, thanks for watching, and head to the website caterhamracer.com for more information, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit notifications so you can catch when the next race goes live. And until then, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you this same time next week at 8:30 next Tuesday for more Caterham Racer action, caterhamracer.com action, of course, real Caterham racing in a virtual world. But until then, take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye bye.